Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit trickier. It's called solve equations using structure. So what I'd like you to do, all right, is I would like you to just put solving equations using structure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down certain things. For example, it says let m equal x squared minus 5. Okay? It says let m equal x squared minus 5. So we got this big long equation, all right? X squared minus 5 squared minus 3 x squared plus 15 equals negative 2. So we got this big long equation. Like, what the heck do we do with this? But it says using structure. So do you guys see where it says m is equal to x squared minus 5? Here's the cool news. Wherever we see an x squared minus 5, we're going to do a little converting. Okay? So do you guys see it says x squared minus 5 right there? We're going to convert that to just m squared. Now, after you convert that, this is going to be the part where it's a little bit tricky, so check this out. Do you guys see how that says minus 3x squared plus 15? I'm going to factor out a negative 3. And if I factor out a negative 3, here I'm left with an x squared minus 5. Look, watch. Negative 3 times what? Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared, and negative 3 times a negative 5 is a positive. So what did I do? I factored out a negative 3. Now, here's the good news. Wherever you guys see x squared minus 5, what can you replace that with? What letter? M. Look, so I'm going to put minus 3, but what am I going to stick in right there? The little letter M. Now, what's that equal to? That's equal to a negative 2. Now, I have converted it from this big, long, ugly equation that only a mother could love to m squared minus 3m equals negative 2. Now, if I wanted to set everything equal to 0, I could add 2 to both sides. Now, what do we have? We have a quadratic equation, and all I did was add 2 to this side, and I added 2 to this side. Okay? So I have a quadratic equation that I converted in forms of m. So a is not my answer. I'm going to be looking for a minus 3m plus 2. Now, I'm not expecting you to get all of this on the very first one. I think it looks like this was our answer for this particular. Yep, there it is. So let's take a look at this. Ready? Let's take a look at the next one. So right here, I'm just going to write it nice and neat. Okay? It says x minus 2 squared minus 6 parentheses x minus 2 plus 5 equals 0. So just write that whole long thing out. And I'm going to pause the video to give my students a chance to catch. Do you see how we have an x minus 2 right here and we have an x minus 2 right there? It's going to be a lot easier if we just replace. We can replace it technically with any letter. So you could use an M if you wanted to. You can use a B if you wanted to. I'll just call it B. All right? So I'm going to call this B. I'm going to call this B. So I'm going to say B is equal to x minus 2. So B is equal to x minus 2. So if I change this to a b, now it becomes b squared minus 6b plus 5 equals 0. So instead of this big long equation, what did I substitute? I just said, now the last equation, what letter did they use? They used an m. I'm just using a b. Okay, just so you guys know that you can be flexible with whatever letter you're using. Now, here's the good news. You guys can actually factor this. Like, what two numbers would add up to a negative 6, but those same two numbers multiply together to equal a positive 5? It's right now, negative 5, negative 5, and -1, -5, -1. So I got b minus 5 and b minus 1 equals 0. Okay? So what could be a number right there? What could be one of the numbers, and what could be the number? What? A 5 and a 1, right? So 1 and 5 could work, but hold on. Listen, we're not done. We're not done. So 1 and 5. So our solution set for b could be a what? A 1 and a 5. But what did we say b was equal to? B was equal to x minus 2. So b was equal to x minus 2. And ultimately, what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for not b, we're trying to solve for x. So what's one of our answers for b? We could say what? 5 equals x minus 2. And what's the other answer we could use? 1 equals x minus 2. So I could add 2 to both sides. So x could equal what number? If I added 2 here and I added 2 there, what would that? That'd be a 7. And if I added 2 here and I added 2 there, what would that also be? Be a 3. So x could equal 7 or x could equal a 3. But it says what? It says find, did it say find both values? So I could technically choose a 7 or a 3 and it should still work. All right? So I'm just going to type in I like 3 because it's a magic number. 3's a magic number. Oh, yes, it is. It's a magic number. All right, so let's keep going. All right, this is very similar. All right, this is very similar to one that we did. I'm going to take my time. All right, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to write it nice and neat. We got 3x plus 7 squared equals negative 6x minus 14. Okay, so just write that down nice and neat. Now, this time, I'll just use an even different letter. I'll call it A, all right? I want you guys to know, I'm going to put A equals 3x plus 7, okay? So A equals 3x plus 7. So everywhere I see a 3x plus 7, what am I going to write? What? A. So guys, see right here? Check this out. We're going to put A, and what are we going to do? We're going to put squared equals. Now, I don't know if you guys know a number that can go into a 6 and a 14, but I think a 2 could, right? They're both even, right? So watch this. I'm going to factor out a negative 2. I'm going to factor out a negative 2. And negative 2 times what gets me negative 6x? Negative 2 times 3. And negative 2 times what gets me a negative 14? And negative 2 times a positive 7. Ooh, interesting. Look at this. You guys see that right there? What's that equal to? A. What is that right there? What am I going to change that to? Yeah, I'm going to change that to A. So what do we have? A squared equals negative 2A. All right. So I'm going to add a 2A, and I'm going to add a 2A, and here's what I get. Ready? A squared plus 2A equals 0. I added 2A to this side. I added 2A to that side. Now, here's what happens. Check this out. I can factor this. What's the only common factor between an A squared and a 2A? It's just the letter A. So what number could I plug in here, and what number could I plug in there to make it equal to 0? I could plug in a 0, or I could plug in a negative 2. So my solution set for A is negative 2 and a 0. That's my solution set for A. Okay? However, what is my A equal to? 3x plus 7. All right, so here we go. I just want you guys to understand this could be my value for A, and this could be my value for A, but I said A is equal to 3x plus 7. So I'm going to choose the easiest one. Check this out. I'm just going to erase A. I'm just going to put a 0. Take away 7 from both sides. And divide both sides by 3. So I'm going to say negative 7/3. Now you're like, that's a lot of stuff to know how to do. It's like, man, I'm going to get lost in the process. So I'm going to show you one more thing of if you want to try it by hand, you can do it and you can check it in Desmos. Okay? You can try it by hand and then you can check it in Desmos. Now check this out. In Desmos, and I realize this is, it's going to go to Desmos here. Let's see here. Let's go to, where's my Desmos right there? Okay, so do you guys see this equation right here? 3x plus 7 squared equals negative 6x minus 14. Okay, so I'm just going to go do a parentheses. 3x plus 7, close it, and I'm going to square it. So I'm just going to use the shift key to make it a little bit faster. Equals, and it was equal to negative 6x minus 14. Oops, sorry. All right. So do you guys see all these right here when I type it in? Do you guys see this one and this one? Now, what did I say one of the answers was? Negative 7 divided by 3. Do you guys see that decimal? Negative 7 divided by 3. Do you see one of my answers I could type in was a negative 3. The other answer could be a negative 7 over 3. So, yes, you could just type it in. But I wanted to make sure I checked it before I typed it in. Okay? All right, I'm going to pause real quick. All right, so we are continuing on right now with solving equations using structure. What I'd like you to put into your journal is not that. Hold on. Here we go. Write that down right there and write this down right here. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. It says P is equal to x squared minus 7. And then over here we have x squared minus 7 squared minus 4x squared plus 28 equals 5. So that's what you want to write down in your journal. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is I want you guys to either box in, highlight something, but I want you to understand wherever you see this, I want you to replace it with the letter P. So let's scan. Does anybody see that anywhere in the equation? Right there at the beginning. So what I'd like you to do is instead of x squared minus 7, I'd like you to simply put what? P. Now that P value is being squared, so here's what you're going to be left with. Right here, you're going to be left with P squared. So far, so good? All right, now, the next thing that kind of tricks out students is I need you guys to understand that a negative 4 goes into a negative 4, and a negative 4 can also go into a positive 28. So watch what I do here. I'm going to put negative 4. I'm going to open up a parentheses, and negative 4 times what is negative 4x squared? Negative 4 times an x squared. Now, negative 4 times x squared gives us this number. But what's negative 4 times what else gets me to a positive 28? That's not just a 7, but a negative 7. And we're going to set that equal to a 5. What did I have to do? I had to factor out a negative 4 right there. Now let's scan. What can I now replace this with? What do you think? P. Very good. So instead of negative 4 times this, it's going to be negative 4 times, and what are we replacing that with? p. And we're going to set it equal to 5. So please write that down. So I'm going to write down everything nice and neat where everything's in terms of p. We got p squared minus 4 times p equals 5. So now we have a nice little quadratic equation. But whenever you're dealing with a quadratic equation, what do we have to set everything equal to? Always set equal to 0. So the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 5 from both sides. And my final answer is p squared minus 4p minus 5 equals 0. That's going to be my final answer, solving using structure. Okay? Now, what I got to do now is I got to find the answer choice that matches that. Okay? What's my answer? P squared minus 4p minus 5 equals 0. So I'm going to scroll down. Fortunately, it looks like we didn't make a mistake because that's our, you can see our answer choice right there, I believe. Making sure. Yep. All right, here we go. What I'd like you guys to do right now is all you have to do is write this one down just like that. Write it down, nice and neat. I'll pause the video, give you guys a chance to write it down. Actually, I'll write it down and then we'll pause the video. So I have x squared minus 2 squared minus 10 parentheses x squared minus 2 plus 21 equals 0. So I'm going to pause it, give my students a chance to catch up. Now, if we look back at our previous one, right? It said what? P equals x squared minus 7. So if we wanted to use the letter P, we could still use the letter P. If we want to use a different letter, how about this? What if I said M equals x squared minus 2? Could I use the letter M for that? Sure. So right now, what we're going to do is wherever you see an x squared minus 2, just replace it with the letter M. So right here, I just want to let you know it doesn't always have to be the same letter. We can choose whatever variable that we want, okay? So right here, what am I going to put down here? I'm going to put in M, and what's happening to it? It's being squared. What am I going to convert that to right there? Another what? M, and what am I bringing down? Minus 10, and then we have what? Plus 21 equals 0. Now, my students should feel a lot more comfortable about factoring that because now we just have to do what? We just have to factor it. So how do we factor this guy? Ready? We're looking for two numbers that add together to equal negative 10, but those same two numbers multiply together to equal positive 21. Well, what would those factors be? What'd you guys say? Got negative 7 and negative 3 add together to equal a negative 10, and negative 7 times a negative 3 equals a positive 21. So what am I going to put right here? I'm going to put m minus 7 and m minus, come on board, wake up, minus 3 equals 0. Now, what could be my two solutions for m? Like, what number could I plug in here, and could I plug in positive 7 and positive 3, right? I could plug those in. So my solution set for m would be a 3 and a 7. Now, sometimes students get a little bit too hasty. They get excited. They type in a 3 or a 7, but we're not done yet. Because what did we say m was equal to up here? M was equal to what? X squared minus a what? Minus a 2. So here's what I'd like you guys to do. All right? I would simply like you guys to put, this is one letter for m, right? This is one number for m. Here's another. So check this out. What I want you to do is I want you to put, which one do you want to use, a 3 or a 7? 3? Okay. 3 equals x squared minus 2. Okay? What else could you say? You could also say what? 7 equals x squared minus 2. What would I have to do to both sides now if I was to solve for x? What would I have to do? Add 2 to both sides, right? And here I have to do it. Add 2 to both sides. So here I get 5 equals x squared. And here I get 9 equals x squared. If I take the square root of both sides, which answer looks like it might be the easiest answer to plug in? A plus or minus radical 5 or a plus or minus 3? Which one do you think would be easier to plug in? A 3, right? Okay. So but here's the thing. Here's the good news. You don't have to type in all the answers. Look, what does it say? Find what? One value. So technically, I could type in any of these and it should work. All right, so I'm going to go over and we'll take a look at our options. So here we go. Interesting. When I hit this, what pops up? A radical. All right, but what number would you guys probably choose? Just a what? Just a 3. Now, check this out. Over here, do you guys remember when I said we could have multiple answer choices right here? The Khan Academy would accept all of the answer choices. Now, hey guys, they used the letter P. What letter did we use instead of P? We used M. Okay, it really doesn't matter which letter that you use. All right. So right now, I'm going to do one more, and that's it. Okay, so we got one more, and that'll be it. So we'll call it a day on this video. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you guys to simply copy that down. This is our last one, and you have the rest of the period to catch up. Okay? And then I'll just go around helping y'all. So I'm going to write it down with you. 5x plus 2 squared plus 15x plus 6 equals 0. Now, what letter would you guys prefer? A P, M, A, B, whatever. I don't like L's. I don't like G. Okay, we'll do a G. All right, we'll do a G. So I want you to put wherever you see. That's supposed to be a G. It's a horrible G. Here we go. Put G equals 5x plus 2. So right here, wherever you see a 5x plus 2, what am I going to replace that with? A G. So put G, and what's happening to it? It's being squared. So put G squared. Plus. Now, what number can go into a 15 and a 6? 3. So put plus 3, open parentheses, equals 0. 3 times what is 15? 3 times 5. And we got to put an x next to it. 3 times what is 6? 2. What do you notice? Why did I factor out a 3? I factored out a 3 so I could get another what? Get another 5x plus 2. You see what I'm saying? So what am I going to replace that with? A g, right? So we got what? G squared plus 3g equals 0. Okay. Now, what's the common factor of a g squared and a 3g? The only letter you could factor out of that is a g. So put g plus 3 and see if this makes sense to you of how I was allowed to factor out a g. Because g times g is g squared, and g times 3 is 3g back in the day. Okay. Now, what number could I plug in to make everything equal to 0 there? And what number could I plug in to make it equal to 0 there? This one's kind of the easy one. What number would you have to plug in? Negative 3, right? What number would you plug in there, though? Any number times 0 makes everything 0. So I'm going to make it a 0. So my solution set for G is a negative 3 and a 0. But this is where students will mess up because they'll get excited like they got all the way here and they'll think these are one of the two answers. But what is G equal to? G is equal to what? 5x plus 2. So what number could I plug in here and solve for x? Or a -3. Okay? So what would be the easiest number to plug in to do? I'd say 0. So put 0 equals 5x plus 2. Then we're just going to do what? Solve for x. Take away 2, take away 2. We get -2 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5. Yeah. So we get x equals what? -2 fifths. Remember, we only had to find one. You didn't have to find both of them. You just have to find one of them that works. So I'm just going to type in -2 divided by 5. Now, this decimal actually is -0.4, so that would actually work. Never type in a repeating decimal. So if it's a fraction like 1/3, you can't type in like 0.333, okay? So I'm going to type in -2 divided by 5, and we'll call it a. You'll have the rest of the period to -2 over 5. That would be the answer for x, okay? All right, so I'm going to type in -2 divided by 5. Now, guys, one more thing. I want you guys to try this by hand, but to check your answers, you could type it into Desmos. You guys see this right here? So I want you to understand, right here, I could clear everything out, go back over to this, and put 5x plus 2 in parentheses squared. And square it. And then add 15x plus 6. Do you see the two zeros where it's set equal to 0? What was one of our answers? -2 divided by 5, which is that -0.4. So that's one of the answers. There's the other answer. I don't want you guys just to simply type it into Desmos because you're really not testing your algebra skills, but that's how you would check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay? But if you just use this, then you're not going to be ready for any test. If you just use that, when it comes to time for the test, then it won't work. So that's how you guys solve equations using structure. Good luck.